Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror comedy film, Dylan Dog, Dead of Night. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins in New Orleans, the mecca of renowned monsters such as vampires, werewolves, and zombies. They coexist with humans through the help of Detective Dylan Dog. Dylan narrates the story of his life, where he used to serve the monsters as their inspector to people and their own kinds. However, things went downhill after his fiancée was murdered by the vampires. Subsequently, he retired and became a normal private investigator who solves petty civil disputes. Ever since his fiancée's death, Dylan has lived with his friend, Marcus. They solve problems together, but Dylan doesn't consider him as his partner. Marcus retries to request a promotion for Dylan, but Dylan rejects his offer and reasons he only works independently. Marcus painfully accepts his decision and shortly recuperates back to his quirky self. Marcus then gives Dylan another client, who lives in the Garden District, the place where rich people live. On the same day, they meet their new client, Elizabeth, to learn about the details of her call for help. Elizabeth explains her father was murdered by a massive monster that has thick fur and claws. She also shows Dylan a detective card with a statement, "No pulse, no problem." She needs their help because the police don't believe in her at all. Dylan blatantly rejects her upon seeing his old detective card and walks out while explaining he's already retired from that line of work. Dylan returns to his car, whereas Marcus apologizes to Elizabeth and then picks up the calling card she throws out as memento. Marcus rejoins Dylan and tries to convince him to accept the case, but Dylan is determined to stick to his mundane petty cases. The two friends separate their ways with a strong tension between them. Meanwhile, Vargas, the leader of vampires, receives an important message. One of his men informs him that a human importer was murdered by a werewolf last night. It's the importer who possessed the relic they know and have been seeking for years, which is called the Heart. Vargas immediately sends his men to investigate and tail its location upon hearing the relic's name. At the apartment, Marcus comes home to apologize to Dylan. However, he stops upon realizing that it's not Dylan whom he's talking to, but an unknown monster. Dylan shortly comes home and finds Marcus dead. The following day, the police arrive to retrieve Marcus' body. While they take him away, Dylan feels regret and sadness because his friend died out of his watch. On the bright side, Marcus's death pushes Dylan to pursue Elizabeth's case, and so he brings out his antique forensic kit and revisits Elizabeth at her house. Elizabeth asks why he took the case after calling her crazy yesterday, and Dylan answers he has lost a close friend due to the same monster that killed her father. Afterward, they go upstairs, and Dylan examines the blood stain on the carpet inside the importer's study room. Outside, he sees a tree and reckons there's a hair stuck on the branches. He reveals the monster that attacked the importer and Marcus is a werewolf. Dylan elaborates that there are 4 werewolf clans in the city, and each clan exhibits unique color fur to identify themselves. He then goes to the tree and collects hair samples for him to compare inside. After careful examination, he discovers the monster is a teen girl werewolf from Cisnos clan. That night, Dylan sneaks into a slaughterhouse owned by the Cisnos clan to search for the killer's address. He encounters a strange shipping address that accepts a small amount of meat and reckons it must be the killer's house, considering the werewolf is a teen and lives alone. Just then, Gabriel, the clan's leader and Dylan's old friend, catches him sneaking around their territory. Dylan plays it cool and subtly accuses Gabriel's 19-year-old daughter of being the culprit. However, Dylan's accusation provokes Gabriel to get mad and triggers his wolf self. Gabriel asks Dylan to leave while he still can, because the others won't be nice to him. Dylan leaves the room, but notices the place has become quiet. Gabriel's eldest son, Wolfgang, sneaks up behind Dylan and attacks him repeatedly. Soon, Wolfgang transforms into a werewolf to continue fighting Dylan, but Dylan counters with a silver gauntlet to stun Wolfgang completely, because werewolves' weakness is silver. Later, Dylan visits the warehouse address of Gabriel's daughter that he found in Gabriel's office. However, he only sees her dead and a vampire escaping from the site. He then revisits Elizabeth to learn more about any possible link between Gabriel's daughter, the vampire, and the importer. Dylan then asks Elizabeth if she knows more about the importer's involvement with the monsters, but Elizabeth denies his suspicions and claims. Dylan explains that if he doesn't stop the possible war soon, it's going to be bloodshed all over the city. Elizabeth gives in and shows a book to him. The book contains the photos of relics that the importer collected and owned, and the only relic missing in his collection after the attack is the cross. Amid their discussion, many vampires surround the house to corner Dylan and Elizabeth. They demand Elizabeth to tell them where the heart is, but Dylan acts fast as he throws a magnesium flare to distract and stun the vampires temporarily. While they escape to Dylan's car, Dylan explains the flare burns the same intensity as the sunlight. However, during their escape, a vampire manages to ride the car, but Dylan quickly dispatches the vampire, but it costs him his favorite car. Soon, Elizabeth and Dylan walk the street at night. Dylan tells Elizabeth that monsters are real and they're everywhere, but hidden under a facade. He knows all about this information because he once was the appointed and trusted impartial inspector of the monsters, in case things between their kinds go south. But things changed when he attacked the vampire elders years ago. Next, they go to a morgue managed by zombies, just for Dylan to check the bite on Marcus's body. While Dylan examines Marcus's wound, Marcus unexpectedly resurrects to life, but as a zombie and not a human. Marcus panics upon seeing himself with a missing arm and a bleeding stomach. He later collapses because he can't wrap around the reality that he's a zombie. Afterward, Dylan and Elizabeth deliver Marcus to a body shop. It's a black market of recycled body parts for zombies. As the staff assemble Marcus's new arm, Dylan chats with the shop owner for current updates, who tells him that after the deaths of the vampire elders, Vargas became the new owner of the Corpus House, which is a renowned luxurious club for vampires. The shop owner also adds that Vargas is responsible for spreading rumors about Dylan being Monster Hunter, who is out killing zombies on the street. Meanwhile, Vargas punishes his man for exposing their plan of seeking the heart back at Elizabeth's house. Now, Dylan knows that his men are after the relic, which ruins their confidential scheme of taking over the chaotic world using the relic. Back at the trio, Dylan helps Marcus to get on his new hygiene regime and lifestyle as a zombie. But Marcus continues to deny and rejects the zombie life, simply because it's disgusting. On the same night, while Marcus and Elizabeth return home, Dylan enters Corpus House by pretending to be a ghoul. A ghoul is a human addicted to vampire blood, where they obtain incredible strength and eternal youth like true vampires. As soon as Dylan enters, Vargas summons him to his private lounge. Vargas tries to ease Dylan, but Dylan straightforwardly confronts Vargas about the rumors that he'd spread about him being a monster hunter. Vargas denies it and even gladly admits that he's grateful that Dylan killed the vampire elders because it freed him from paying a multitude of debts to them. Vargas then intentionally refers to Dylan as pal, which provokes Dylan to ask why his men attacked a werewolf and Elizabeth if they are true friends. Vargas pretends to be thinking and then denies their involvement in his mess. Dylan then says he wants to inspect the club, but Vargas prohibits him. Dylan smirks and accepts his decision, but then he warns Vargas that he's coming for him once he finds proof of him being involved in the ongoing mess. The moment he leaves the bar, he luckily encounters Slake, the vampire he saw in the warehouse of Gabriel's daughter. Dylan asks Slake what he's doing in that place, but Slake keeps his mouth shut. Dylan threatens him with a gun and asks again what he knows about the relic. Slake escapes upon seeing the photograph, but he soon meets death after a stall flesh-eating zombie eats his badass alive. Dylan tries to kill the giant zombie, but it slaps him away and retreats back into a dark alley. Fortunately, Dylan survives the attack and returns to the apartment. The following day, Dylan and Marcus investigate Slake's apartment, where they discover that Slake and Gabriel's daughter are a couple. Shortly after, they're about to leave until Marcus's stomach rumbles due to hunger. Marcus is still in denial, so Dylan shoots him in the heart, where he feels no pain at all, to prove that he's already dead as shit. Once settled, they next visit the funeral for Gabriel's daughter to see Gabriel. Gabriel explains to Dylan that Slake told him everything, including the relic's location. However, Gabriel keeps his mouth sealed so as to save Dylan from the risk of death. That night, Dylan visits his 800-year-old vampire friend to learn more about the heart. The friend obliges and then brings out an antique book for visualization. It's revealed that the heart is also known as the Heart of Belial. It's a relic that holds the blood of Belial, an ancient monster who wreaked havoc across the earth in ancient times. Sadly, the monster couldn't be killed, but could only be contained inside the relic after the death of his master. His next master would be the one who's going to inject his blood into a new host. Belial could be revived once again if his blood is injected into a new host during the full moon. Once the blood enters the host, Belial will be revived to serve his master wholly. 400 years ago, the mighty monster hunters stole the heart so they could kill all the monsters, but they were all massacred before they could use it. Then the heart was agreed to be in possession of the werewolves for safekeeping. Next, Dylan and Marcus visit Gabriel, now that they know his clan is the proper keeper of the heart. However, Gabriel is already dying after being attacked, but he eventually reveals that the heart is in the hand of a vampire named Sclavi. Dylan then returns to the apartment alone to ask Elizabeth for any more possible information about the relic. Elizabeth answers that it was stolen from her father. Dylan then clarifies it's never his to begin with, because it rightfully belongs to the werewolves. It turns out, Gabriel's daughter killed the importer to retrieve the heart. Then she gave it to Slake for safekeeping, and lastly, he told Gabriel. Now, all the ones who know where the heart is are dead. The following day after their hormone night, Dylan gives Elizabeth a talisman for protection against vampires. Marcus unexpectedly barges into the room with newfound information, but he quickly realizes what's going on, so he leaves Dylan alone. Dylan then quickly chases after Marcus. Marcus learns from his zombie support group last night that the giant zombie hides in an abandoned warehouse. The link between the giant zombie and the rest is still unclear, but Dylan still goes with Marcus anyway to end its chaos. Upon arriving at the abandoned warehouse, they successfully manage to kill the giant zombie after trapping it and letting a horde of flesh-eating zombies eat it. Next, they infiltrate the Corpus house before sundown to interrogate Vargas about any information regarding Sclavi. Vargas reveals Sclavi is a sleeping vampire elder in a hidden tomb. Fortunately, Dylan knows exactly where the tombs are, so they quickly travel to a shipyard and then enter a cargo ship where the hidden tombs are built. They soon acquire the heart, but the moment they get out, Vargas' men surround and ambush them. Dylan and Marcus eventually wake up inside an open crypt and find themselves surrounded by vampires and Vargas. Vargas then reveals two things to Dylan. First, he plans to turn Elizabeth into Belial, and second, he confesses that he killed Dylan's fiancée to aggravate him into executing all of the vampire elders. In that way, Vargas could inherit the leadership over the vampires. Vargas then seals Marcus and Dylan under the crypt, but they eventually escape because Marcus digs up a tunnel out of the dirt and he removes the seal, so Dylan can escape too. Meanwhile, at the Corpus house, Vargas nearly turns Elizabeth into a vampire until she fights back and reveals that she's been a monster hunter all along. She manages to subdue and chain Vargas on the rooftop so she can make him Belial's new host. Just then, Dylan and Marcus arrive at Corpus house, where they find the whole place filled with dead vampires. Dylan finally deduces that Elizabeth is their real enemy all along, after recalling that she didn't wear the talisman he gave her so she could get near Vargas. She's also responsible for controlling the giant zombie to kill Slake, and then murdered Gabriel and his daughter, and even Marcus. She does this because her family is a group of monster hunters who aim to fulfill their legacy. Dylan then tells Marcus to call Wolfgang and his pack for reinforcement, and then they go to the rooftop to find Elizabeth behind a chained Vargas. Elizabeth explains she wants to bring out Belial into the world to eliminate all the monsters because they're the bad ones, whereas the monster hunters are the good ones. However, Dylan tells her that she's wrong because killing innocent monsters doesn't make her good, but a real monster instead. Sadly, they're too late as Elizabeth injects the heart behind Vargas, which contains the Belial's blood. Vargas transforms into Belial and attacks everyone on sight. Elizabeth tries to talk with Belial to stop attacking them, but Belial betrays his master and says his enemies are the ones who stop him from killing. Elizabeth then escapes since her plan has failed, leaving Dylan and Marcus to deal with the Goen Row Belial. However, Wolfgang and his pack surround and corner Elizabeth on time, and later kill her for planning a genocide on their kind. Now that Elizabeth's dead, Belial weakens and returns back into the relic. He fails to protect his master, which leads to his master's death and the victory of Dylan and Marcus. The movie ends with Dylan retrieving the heart from Vargas, who is still unconscious after being possessed by Belial. Afterward, Dylan returns and entrusts the heart back to Wolfgang, since they're the rightful protector. Dylan then reunites with Marcus. After seeing his old business card from Marcus, he decides to resurrect his detective agency that handles serious monster cases. He also refers to Marcus as his partner, which makes Marcus elated and thrilled about their new chapter in solving paranormal cases. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.